Right, this is a how-to on fitting a 150cc big bore kit for a Suzuki GS, GN, DR, GZ, the Sinnis, Pulse Adrenaline, all those basically Suzuki GS based motors. In your kit you should get either a flat top piston or a domed piston. Domed piston, depending on what sort of model year you've got. Most of the newer Chinese based bikes have got the flat top pistons. You should also get a piston pin, a couple of little circlips for the pistons, set of rings, which should be two scraper rings and an oil ring, and then of course your barrel, and you should also get obviously gaskets. You've got a base and head gasket, and then the small one here is for your tensioner, your cam chain tensioner. So the first thing you have to do is go to your bike. This one's a dr125, but it's pretty much similar for most of the bikes. The thing to do is pull your tank off, and then pull exhaust off, and basically, yeah, so do that, pull the spark plug, and we'll go from there. Okay, the tank and seats off it. So before we go any further, you may have bolts that are similar to this, which are Allen key bolts. If so, you probably need these sort of long reach Allen bolt fucking things. You might be lucky and have a nut, well, maybe lucky because that could be rusted in place. So you want to get the exhaust off, and then after that you want to pull the carburetor, which is fairly easy. You've got a screw here on the other side, and then you can just about, I almost pull this just straight out of the gearbox. Leave the gearbox in place. So I'll do that next and come back to you. Okay, exhaust's off. Next is the carburetor. You may or may not have these, which are the carb heaters. So that's just a normal spade connector and a plug connector, and then also you've got, on this particular one, is a throttle position sensor. It's pointless on a fucking carburetor bike, I don't know why they put them there, but anyway. So we move around to the other side. We've got this screw here to hold the carburetor on. So I'll just undo that, and then I'll obviously free off the carburetor. Okay, carburetor's free. Next on the card is removing the top engine mount, and then we'll go about pulling the rocker cover / can cover off. Yeah, once you've got the engine mount free, you've got engine bolts, or just a rocker cover / cam cover bolts. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8. 8 of those to do before you can pull the cam cover off. Also, you may or may not have a rev counter cable, which would be located here. This dr125 isn't fitted with the rev counter, but you may have it. So if you do, then obviously you have to unbolt it there and slide it out. Cool. So you've also got these 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts to hold down the cam as well. So there's 12 bolts on the rocker cover that you've got to remove. Once you've done that, then whack it with something, like if you've got a rubber mallet, the sweet handle of a screwdriver, and that'll free it up from the head, and then we can hopefully get that out of the way, which obviously reveals the cam the inlet valve and the exhaust valve. There's a cam chain. So next thing we want to do is line it up. And next off, we're going to take out this little bung here so we can rotate the crank, which in turn will rotate the cam, so we can put it at a, well, hopefully top dead centre. There should be timing marks on it, but I can't see them at the moment, so we'll rotate them to a position that we can mark up both the crank and the cam, so when we come to put it all back together again, we can put everything in the same place, so it's all timed up and ready to go. So I'll just do that now. To bung out, we've also got a 17mm nut up here that we've got to remove as well, so we can actually see the timing marks on the flywheel. So we'll pull that out and we'll have a look down there and see if we can line up the timing marks. Okay, with a 14mm, we'll push it in here and you'll see that there's a nut in there. So you want to turn the crank there and you want to look down this hole, and so you rotate it. See the little arrow that's there somewhere? You rotate it around until you see timing mark, which should be somewhere around here. Right. Oh, I've gone past it. So somewhere around here, if I slowly turn it. There we go. So we want to line up that line there with the arrow, and if we look up to the cam, so there's two marks on the cam, just there, and they're sitting parallel with this head. So you know that that's completely timed there. And if you look at the cams themselves, the inlet and the exhaust are both facing downwards. So when you come to put it in, face the lobes downwards. This is obviously something you want to remember for when you're reassembling it. We'll go over that once we've done it. So we've got everything centered. Obviously it was really easy to turn over, and that's mainly because I've got the spark plug out, where the spark plug holder is. If you've got the spark plug in, then obviously you'll get the compression still, because the valves are closed and whatnot. Right, so next on the cards will be to undo the tensioner, remove the tensioner, and then once we've done that, we'll pull the cam out, which as you can see is fairly loose because there's no weight on the rockers are out, so there's no weight on the valves. Okay, that's the tensioner out, and luckily they normally come with a gasket, because obviously mine broke when I pulled it out because they're pretty brittle. Like mine, this motorbike's done just shy of 10,000 miles, and they get pretty dried up and shit, and obviously putting a different barrel on there, so we're going to have to need a new gasket anyway. Okay, so next off, so we've got a bit more slack on the chain now, so we may be able to pull this out in the oneer, but what we'll do is down here is we've got the tensioner, so we'll unbolt the tensioner, we'll slide the tensioner out, and then we'll pull the cam out. So now the tension is free. Just tuck that to the side. We should be able to hopefully get this out. No, doesn't look like we can. So what we'll do here is we'll unbolt the cam sprocket, release it from the cam, pull out the cam. Yeah, so good to go. If that's the case, so we'll do that. We'll pull that out and we'll go from there. Okay, I actually managed to get it out with without taking the sprocket off, which is good. Bear in mind, you've got these holders here, so you don't want to be losing those. Yeah, because they're not in there very hard, so you don't want that falling down the bottom end. The chain, if we were just changing the cam, we'd probably just get a cable tie and hold it up, but since we're changing the whole barrel and stuff, you can pretty much, well, this is all coming off anyway, so it's going to have to move past it, so you can pretty much just let it go, and we'll pick that up later on. It doesn't matter where the chain is itself, throughout the thing. As long as the cams and the crank stay in the same position, we shouldn't have to fuck around with that too much. So next off, we're going to unbolt these 4 bolts here, and that should allow us to pull off the head, which is obviously the valves, the intake and the exhaust. They're all in this. You see it here. This, oh shit, this one section where it comes. So there's the barrel there up to this point, and this here is all the head. So we'll pull that off next, and that gives us access to the piston and the barrel. So we'll do that. Okay, so the 4 main barrel nuts are out. We've also got ones down here, so we've got 1, 2, and then around the other side we've got another 2 as well, so we've got 4 on the underside as well to release the head from the barrel. So I'll pop those off now as well. All of these things are, the top ones are 12s, and these look like 10s down here. You want to have a ring spanner for these ones down here, but just a regular 12mm socket for the top ones are fine. Okay, I was told a lie. We've only got the 2 over here, and that's obviously for the cam chain to stop that leaking. Basically now, this bolt here, this nut, sorry, we'll have to lift up the head a little bit to actually get it free of the thing. I've just got shitty little pry bar type thing, and you just sort of wedge it in between the head and the barrel, and then you should be able to just move your way around, sort of freeing it up. Also in here you've got 2 washers. You've got a bigger steel washer and a copper washer. Obviously pull those fuckers out so you don't lose them down the barrel, and once you've freed that all up, then obviously the head will be out. So I'll just do that now with 2 hands. So that's the head free. In my case, the stud that came through there, they had the nut on it, it unwound itself from the head. It's no fucking drama. You just have to undo it from the barrel later on. That's fine. So we've got all that off. Next will be these barrel bolts. I assume there's only 4. 1, 2. It looks like there's only 2 of them. So we'll just undo those 2, and then we pull the barrel out, and then we'll go about swapping the barrel and the piston. And you can see in my case, this is a dr125 SEY, so it's a 2000, essentially, yeah, so 2000 GS motor, and these are the ones that have to use the domed pistons. If you've got a later than sort of about 2007 or 2008 bike, they generally use the flat top pistons. I'm not entirely sure why. My domed piston that I got doesn't look anything like that, but it's only the DRs that I've seen that have these sort of crowns on the pistons. It's obviously for more compression, but yeah, so something to bear in mind if you've got like a Pulsar or something like that, or you know, a newer chinky bike, or sorry, Pulsar, Adrenaline Pulse, or a Sinnis Trackster, or whatever all the rest of the Sinnis Cafe or something like that. They'll all have the flat top pistons. So when you order one either off eBay or AliExpress or whoever you get it from or whatever, obviously you'll probably be don't quote me because I haven't pulled off a Sinnis one yet, but as far as I understand it, they're all flat top pistons. So yeah, I'll pull the barrel off, and we'll go about changing the piston and barrel. Okay, so I've undone those. Again, this has happened again. The posts are unwound, and the nuts come off that side. That's not the end of the world. You just wind it out, and then just as it starts to get loose, then obviously just keep winding until you got the post all the way out. So now we just pull the barrel all the way up and out, and that'll come with the other cam chain tensioner over the other side, and this just lifts out, this one here. So now we're left with the original piston and whatnot, so we'll go about changing all that shit over surely. Okay, here's the original piston. Sorry, I'll just wipe that. The original piston, obviously we want to steal the camshaft tensioner. Again, we've got a little guide, and on the bottom we should have a guide as well. So we've got a guide over here, which is going to require me to grab some pliers. And we transfer them all across to the new barrel, and then once that barrel's prepared, we'll change our domed piston, not a flat piston, for my case anyway, over to obviously to the bike. Okay, so the next bit is pulling the ring out, and oh shit, that's just located in here, and there's a little divot. Oh, there's a little divot in here. If it would fucking focus. Anyway, there's a little divot in here. Make sure you chuck some rags down here so when this little ring comes flying out, it doesn't go down the barrel. Basically, you only need to pull it out on one side, and once you've got it out, you should be able to. I'll see if I can do this one-handed. See, you should be able to push the pin. Like yeah. Pin out the side of the piston, and then the piston's now free of the conrod. That's it. Okay, once you've got the piston free, then you can go to your new piston and fit the rings. Okay, and so basically what you've got is 3 rings, well, 4 rings. So if you see on the old piston, you've got a couple of compression rings, silver ring at the top, black ring second, and then the oil scraper ring is the bottom one, and that's made of 2 layers. So there's 2 real skinny ones. Fuck yeah. There's actually 2 here. You can see. Yeah, so 2 really skinny ones, one either side of the oil ring, and then the two other rings. On these particular rings, there is no right or wrong way to put them. Sometimes you have tapered rings, but these aren't tapered, so they can go on either way. Basically, you start at the bottom ring and work your way up. So one of the really skinny rings goes first, oil scraper ring, little skinny ring, and then the 2 compression rings. So I'll do that and fit the piston back in. Okay, so once you've got your rings on, the next stage is to obviously chuck your little circlips, or whatever they want to call them, in. I find it easiest to the little ends go away from so you've got a little divot here, put the ends up near the top, so there's a nice round piece of metal where that little divot is, so when you come to dig it out, you can easily dig it out. So I'll do that on one side, and then put the piston onto the bike, slide the piston pin through the other side, just like when I took it off, slide it through until it hits that side, and then chuck the pin on the other side, and then that'll be the piston in place, and then we'll slide on the barrel. Alright. Okay, so we've got our piston, sorry, I'll clean that. We've got our piston in place. Now we've just got to remove what's left of this old gasket and stuff like that, so then we can put the new gasket in place and then slide the barrel on. So I'll just do that now. Okay, we've got those couple of stuck bolts up here, or posts. The thing to do is get a couple of, what are these, M6s, a couple of M6 nuts, so 10mm nuts if you're that way inclined. Screw them on, and then obviously tighten the two nuts together, these two bottom ones, and then when you're trying to undo this top nut, hold on to the top nut here, and this top nut will tighten onto the bottom nut and allowing you to unscrew this one. So I'll just do that now. Unfortunately I don't have three hands, so I can't show you. Okay, now that we've got our post back out, I'm just going to apply some Loctite, chuck it back into the bike, and then we'll slide on the barrel. Chuck the gasket back on. There's no real need to use a gasket sealer, but I use Polymer Blue on it, just a light little bit. This is sort of, it's a non-drying sort of gasket compound, which I find it works good on barrels and things like that. So yeah, I'll chuck that on and then I'll chuck the barrel on. Okay, I'm going to chuck the barrel on. Just a word of sort of warning, I suppose, but I couldn't get this bastard out of this one here without completely wrecking it. So I've got a spare anyway. I'll put up a Suzuki part number for that, but I'd say get that because, you know, you're probably going to get it stuck on the other one and you won't be able to do it, you know, carry on putting the barrel on. So just this little spacer type thing. I'll put the number up and go for it. Right, when I'm going to have to obviously leave it, basically we're going to put the barrel on, slide it down. It's fairly easy because the barrel's sort of tapered, so you sort of just hold the top ring and just sort of jig it in and slide it down until it sits at the bottom. Yeah, I can't show you that anyway, so I won't bother, but I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, barrel's on. Next is obviously half of the tensioner. That goes down in there, and then we'll slide the head back on. Okay, once you've got your tensioner up there, grab the chain, put the tensioner down, put your gasket on, and then it's time to slide your head back onto the thing. These bolts down here are still loose. We do them all at the same time. Yeah, so head on now, and we'll go from there. Okay, once you've got your head on, obviously cam back in. Normally it's can be quite tricky trying to get the marks lined up and stuff like that. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 goes. I was lucky on this one, it went in on the right spot on the first go. Once you've got that all set up and the marks are horizontal, these are facing down or up, whatever you want to do it, depending on how you started it. In my case it was down, and your timing mark is in the right place. Then it's just a matter of putting the head back on. Is that the right way? Yep. Putting the head back on, tightening everything down, and then just checking your valve clearances. They shouldn't have changed, but it's worth checking anyway. Obviously putting your carburetor back on and whatnot. Make sure that you, before you put the cover back on, that you chuck some oil in the top end here, especially the lobes of the cams and just around the area there, because most of that would have come out and you've had it on the bench. I think that's about it. Obviously tensioner back in there, and then adjuster there, tensioner adjuster back in, same spot. That's it. Job's a good one. Right, I hope that's helped. Give me a yell on YouTube if you got any queries. Right. Okay, that's everything back together now. Heads on, clearances were done. They pretty much didn't need to be changed. I've stuck with the stock jets. I haven't changed anything with that. found in the past doing a big bore kit that you don't really need to. Obviously you've got more displacement, so it sucks in more air, and obviously more air is more fuel, so it doesn't really seem to make a difference as far as jetting goes. The torque is certainly a lot better, especially in the hills and whatnot. Top end's pretty much stayed, pretty much identical, and I would say it's probably more to do with the exhaust on this thing. You probably can't see it, but there's it goes from maybe a 1-inch pipe, maybe down just a couple of mil, just down right where it comes into the exhaust. So it's not a restriction that you can drill out. You'd have to change the header pipe, and I'd say on this style of bike maybe a dr125 header pipe, or an aftermarket type thing may make a difference to the top end. Obviously you could do stuff to do with obviously your intake, have less restriction on the intake as well, but I'm not too fussed, to be fair. It's just a commuter bike. Yeah, so that's about it. Pretty much it starts and pretty much exactly the same. This is cold at the moment, I won't even bother with the choke. So it still starts on the bottom. That's about it. Cool. Final words. Pretty much, I think it's probably worth doing for all it costs. I got the kit off AliExpress, which is a Chinese website. I'll put a link to the seller. One of the I ordered 2 barrels because I was getting one for my partner's younger brother as well. But I got 2 kits. One of the kits came damaged when it arrived. I don't know if you can see it. I can see it on the side. I just contacted them and they replaced it, no worries. They did express shipping. I also got, obviously, it came with a flathead piston, but I ordered a dome head piston. And as far as I know, and I've heard, all newer bikes have flathead pistons, and there's quite a bit of difference between the flathead and the domed piston. What is it? So okay, shut. If you have a look at I'll just put them side by side. This is obviously the old piston versus the new. So here, obviously the skirts are longer, but it's the height. I'll try this. So there's a good, maybe 3 or 4 mils before and that lined up with the domed piston. So you may be able to put in one of these domed pistons. Obviously this is the original one. If you wanted a bit more compression, but the valves may touch. So I don't know. Maybe you could get a spare one and give it a go, and if the valves hit the piston, then ditch it. I also noticed with their gaskets compared to so that's the stock gasket. Just measure the thickness of that. It's 0.75 mil thick for the head gasket, and one of theirs. I bought spare gaskets as well because I've been bitten in the past where I've not with these metal ones, and their gasket is 0.55, so it's a bit narrower. So obviously that's probably going to make up for some of the compression. Obviously, because their piston is nowhere near as domed as what the original was on the DR. Apart from that, it seems to run really well. Yeah, hauls my 110 kilos.
6'4" frame up pretty decent hills with no trouble. So yeah, all in all, a pretty good mod. Obviously, if you're in the UK and you're on your learner license, then officially it's not legal. But the second barrel that I got didn't have any markings on it at all. But the first barrel and the other barrel I got have 124 CM3, so it looks like a stock barrel, and I suspect it probably is. And they've just bored it out. So if you have a look at you can see how thick the wall is. So you're looking at 9.5, say, compared to compared to 6, and you notice that on the bottom end as well. Obviously that's as far as you could take it out. Stock is 3.8 mil thick, the skirt, and here on their barrel is 2 mil thick. So obviously that's, you couldn't really go any bigger bore than that. For their, I think it's a 62 mil piston or something like that, approximately that thick. 61.5 mil piston, I think they call it a 62 mil piston, and stock is 56 or 56.5, which I think they call 56. So yeah, pretty good mod. I'd say even if you're on your learners, no, they're not going to pull apart a motor to find a a big bore kit, especially when it's marked 124cc. But officially, you're not allowed to do it and ride it on the road on your learners, and you're supposed to obviously notify DVLA if you're in the UK. Yeah, if you've got any questions, then give me a yell on YouTube and I'll try and answer them. Yeah, cheers for watching, hope it's helped.